You're watching Car Babble. I'm Ewan, and I'm sitting in my daily driver, the BMW 3 Series, the F30 generation of the 3 Series. And I say daily driver as if I've got a weekend sports car. I don't. This is my car, and I'll probably have it for the long term. I have the 320D X-Drive, so the 4-cylinder with all-wheel drive and diesel. And yeah, I'm going to be giving you a lot of videos about this car because I want to document my full ownership experience of it, all the good, all the bad. And obviously, when you buy a BMW 3 Series, the main thing you want out of it is a good driving experience. So that deserves a video or two of its own. So keep an eye on the channel for one when I take over the Scottish Highlands once the weather gets a bit better. However, in this video, I want to talk more about the interior and non-driving related things that I love and don't love about this car. So I'm going to give you 5 things I've found really quite delightful about it and 5 things that suck. So if you enjoy my videos, don't forget to like and subscribe, otherwise buckle up and let's get into it. Now this could be slightly Marmite because there will be people that like a thin steering wheel or just have little hands, but there's just something about BMW steering wheels that feels unique and like they're different to other cars. The thickness of them, it's almost like holding a baseball bat, and I mean I don't even have the biggest of hands, but I just love holding their steering wheels and they just feel so tactile and almost like silly putty molding around your hands. They just feel so well to grip, and I mean you don't touch any more in your car than your steering wheel, do you? You know, you don't drive along going, it's your steering wheel. That should be the thing that's the most important thing, to focus your budget on making the best to touch. And they do. And it just feels so moldable around your fingers. And I mean, don't get me wrong, this is not something I would recommend somebody does in a driving test, and I'm not saying I do this, but you could put your elbow on the door card and put your finger and just squish it into the steering wheel and almost drive like that. It just seems to almost absorb your hands and your fingers. It's just so engaging as well because it's all about grip, this car, and about handling and just being part of the experience. I just feel like you hold your steering wheel and you're kind of one with the car. It really is just the most lovely steering wheel to hold, and BMW, please don't ever change that. Now, car makers are all going towards touchscreens and making things a lot more complicated than they used to need to be to do things. Okay, technology and functionality's moved on a lot, but there are a lot of things in cars now that are more complicated to achieve what you want to do than they need to be. And, you know, you could have things buried in touchscreens that are distracting to look at while you're driving, and, you know, swipey haptic feedback buttons and all this sort of tosh. Well, I'm pleased to report in the F30, you don't have that problem. It's all the simplest buttons possible, and it's easy to find muscle memory about where they are. And one, there's not that many of them, but they're big buttons, and nothing demonstrates that better than the drive mode select button, which is like a light switch. And so you're driving along, you go, I fancy a burst of extra speed. I think I'll go to sport mode. Press, off you go. Don't even need to look down. It's a simple clicky button press. That's as simple as it should be and needs to be. I don't know why it ever needs to be more complicated than that. And BMW are starting to dabble in that, just like other car makers. But in the F30, you don't have to worry about that. BMW's iDrive system, the brains behind their infotainment interface, has been heralded as one of the best, if not the best, infotainment system on the market for 10 plus years. And they continue to make improvements on it, but they're moving more towards the touch screeny, curved screeny type stuff now. But in the F30, it really was just about as good as I think it really ever needs to be. And it's all done by controlling it through this little scroll wheel. And if you go for the media pack, which this car has, you get the 8.8 inch screen upgrade. It's a bigger screen and you get a bigger joystick, which is important because the one in the smaller one is just like, it's a bit dinky. But this one feels like a buzzer on University Challenge, you know, you can't really miss it. And it's even got this little touchpad, which as long as you're not on a gravel track at 70 miles an hour, if you try to write, you know, a letter or a number in, it does actually pick it up. It's just such a simple system to use. It's so logically laid out. You could be an absolute moron and still figure the system out with no training in minutes. Everything just is swiping through the menus and scrolling. It's just so easy. It's a wonderful system, and it's as simple but as useful as you could ever want an infotainment system to be. I absolutely love it. Now, if somebody could tell me I'm doing this wrong or there's a workaround for this, and great, but I'm not sure I really want it, to be honest. And this could be controversial because it will probably be annoying for some people, and occasionally I find it annoying. But this car, when you get out of it and you've switched the engine off, it still plays music on your radio until you either press the engine button again or lock the doors. I think that's great. You know, I love my tunes, listen to a really good tune and get home and I'm like, oh, I need to go, but I really want to hear my song. get out of the car, all the way to the house, I'm still listening to my song. Love that. This car has the upgraded Harmon Kardon sound system, and you can tell it's got that. So if you're shopping for one of these, it'll have the little tweeters on the door cards that have the Harmon Kardon branding on them. So yeah, that's an easy way to tell if it's got it or not. But it's got about 600 watts of power, and it's a really good sound system. Like, I have to say, I really find the bass really rich. I find just the range of vocals, everything stands out really well in this. And it's not a big car, so you just feel cocooned in good sound. And I just generally think this is a really, really good upgraded sound system. So if you get this along with this chassis on a country road on a summer's day, absolutely orgasmic. This car has ambient lighting, and yeah, I have to say, compared to other cars that have ambient lighting, this is pretty lame. You know, you get cars that have it and it's all around the car and it looks like a nightclub. And obviously this is a slightly older car, so that's understood. But yeah, the ambient lighting effort they've got here is fairly lame. You've got two options. You've got classic, which is an amber color, which is a bit like the dials color at night. And then you've got sport, which is white. I'm not really sure what white's got to do with sport. But anyway, those are your options. And very few parts of the car illuminate at night anyway. And it's not a very bright light either. So yeah, it's not the best. Generally, storage in Cubbies in the F30 is a bit crap, to be honest. It's not really its strong point. I mean, the glove box is an all right size. The door bins are decent enough, but that's really about where it ends. You've got this middle bin here that's not very deep, and there's just not really much space to put a lot of stuff in there. And then you've got cup holders that don't have any teeth on them, so they're not adaptive, and it's just, they've not really thought about practicality and all that side of things particularly well in this car, so definitely not a strong point. Now, this is definitely one that you might tell me I'm wrong here, and I'm happy to be corrected. But what I do know for sure is there's no track forward and back button specifically designated on the steering wheel for the F30, which is kind of annoying, especially when you're using Bluetooth. So I like to listen to Spotify through Bluetooth. So anytime I want to skip track, you can do it through your jog wheel, obviously, which is fine. And you've got track skip and back buttons on the dash as well. But I like to use my steering wheel, drive along, just want to use my thumb, just skip a track or go back a track. And yeah, you can do it, but it's two presses instead of one as far as I can see. You've got to press it once to get the menu up, and then press, there'll be an arrow for back or for forward, and then you have to press it again to move to that next track. So it's two presses instead of one to basically do that. And I find that really inconvenient, you know. That's one of those things where it's like, no, that should just be one button to do that. But in Bluetooth mode especially, that isn't the case as far as I can see. So yeah, that's annoying. I can't conclusively say whether or not this car has heated water wash jets, i.e. to stop them freezing in winter. However, it doesn't really matter for the sake of my point, because for quite a while over winter, whenever it got cold, I would go to clear my window in the morning and then I would press my water scooters and nothing would happen. And all I could hear was a noise, but no actual water came out because they were frozen. So that made me think I didn't have that. However, it turns out that if you don't use BMW's highly concentrated anti-freeze screen wash, then it doesn't really clear the lines and stop them from freezing. So eventually I changed to that, and it's been much less of an issue. However, for a while that was a real problem, and so yeah, that's why it's on this list. And also I thought it was important to know that in case it helps you. You can get adaptive LED headlights for the F30, and certainly BMW's LED headlight game and beyond has gotten a lot better. But in the F30, if you've only got high beam assist, which this car does, well, I was really hoping that this would be reliable when I bought this car, because I've had high beam assist before in cars and it's not been reliable, and it annoys me a lot. I've also had cars that have had adaptive LED headlights, and I've loved the technology, and it's never let me down in my Volvo or in my Skoda before. Unfortunately, in the F30, this particular one anyway, I don't know, maybe it's just this car, I'm unhappy to report that it doesn't really work, and I've had to eventually just give up on it, and now I just manually change my beams up and down constantly, which I find really inconvenient, having got used to not having to do that. Sometimes I go around a corner and another car comes and I'm like, oh, is it going to dip its beams? Nope, not quick enough, and then I have to dip it, or I get flashed. Or I'm driving in a straight line on this big straight near our house, cars coming from miles away, and I'm like, okay, surely this car has seen that there's lights coming and it still hasn't dipped the beams. And it's really late on before it does it, and eventually either you get flashed or you override it. That really grinds my gears. It's technology that this car is saying it has, high beam assist, and it's not assisting me at all. So that really disappoints me, and I really wish this had the adaptive LED headlights, and who knows if they're much better or not, but I'd love to know if anybody else had this problem in their F30, but in this car, it's a real problem. So those are some of the perks and quirks I found from my ownership journey of the F30 so far. I really feel like I'm falling in love with this car. There's going to be highs and lows, but it seems like mostly highs. There's just so much character with this car and it suits my lifestyle so much. And the things that annoy me are just, they're not deal breakers, they're just little niggles really. Okay, the high beam assist bothers me quite a bit, but you know, I can get past that. But yeah, I really love this car so far. I'm going to enjoy telling you more about it, so keep an eye out on my channel for more content coming up. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like, and I'd love to know your thoughts on this car. And hey, maybe you can tell me some things about it that I don't know, and you know, tell me how I can fix some of the problems I've got. So that would be great to hear. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.